I'll do it in the remix. Yeah. I'll do it in the remix. Yeah. I'll do it in the remix. Yeah. I'll do it in the remix.
Hi, my name is Richard Bonnin, and today we're going to talk about the art of the remix. Now, a lot of people ask, what exactly is a remix? What is a remixer? A remixer is part DJ, part musician, part songwriter, part mad scientist in the studio. Back in the day, in the early days of mixing, a remix was pretty much what it sounds like. It was a simple retweaking of knobs and effect settings in order to achieve a different ambiance on the entire structure of the song, as well as razor blade tricks that they used to create extended versions. Now, ever since the revolution of hip-hop and other urban contemporary styles, along with combining that with digital sampling technology, the power to make or break a hit song, a hit record, if you will, is within your grasp. So what we're going to talk about today are the actual tools used in the art of the remix. Let's go over to our sampler, shall we? Probably the first question that would be asked about remix tools is, what is a sampler? I can't think of any other better way to show you what a sampler is but by taking a microphone here. Hello, 1, 2.
Hello, 1, 2.
And it's basically the copying of a sound and digital manipulation of a sound via digital waveforms. It's as simple as that. Probably the most common usage of digital sampling today is with the drum loop, which is what you hear here. You can spread them across different keys or different pads, if you will. Now, being that this is a digital signal, you actually have ways that you can manipulate it by reversing the sound, speeding it up and slowing it down, looping it in all various different ways. So you have a lot of things that you can actually do to manipulate the sound. Now, sampling is not to be confused with sequencing, which is a completely different part of the remix process. Now, digital sampling is not to be confused with sequencing. Sequencing is a process of taking the digital samples that you have accrued and setting them to the clock of an internal computer recorder. For instance, I have drum samples allocated on different keys here. What I'm going to do is sequence these various samples into the computer inside this keyboard to show you how to create a drum loop using pieces of digital samples. So what I have there are pieces of samples being used, and I can quantize them on a grid. Now what that does is it helps if I have actual timing errors, the computer inside will correct those. So we can listen to that back. So that was a drum loop that was created using sequencing. Now, what I'm going to show you now is the actual building of a track, if you will. I had a record that I was playing here a little bit earlier, and I had timed it out to about 90 beats per minute. So what I'm going to do is take these drum sounds, and I'll go ahead and sequence a quick drum track here. Now, basically what I have there is 4 bars of a loop. So I'll go ahead and keep that. Now what I'll need to do is adjust the length of that. And I also need to quantize the track to make it nice and tight. What we'll go do on the next track, let's pick a sound here. Let's pick a clap to put up on top of that. So go to our next track. So there, that's recorded in there as well. I'll take that and quantize it as well. Let's do a bass line. So there I have the basic fundamentals of a track. I have the bass line, I have the drum line, and a little bit of flavor over the top, if you will. Now I can blend that with the acapella that I have on my turntable here. And you can hear the remix being born.
Let's get it on. All right.
Basically, what you have here is an acapella record. Now, remixers will sometimes get records acapella, they'll get a DAT acapella. It depends on who's hiring, doing the project, what media that you'll get the vocal track on. But more often than not, if you're a member of a record pool or if you buy your records, there's acapellas included on quite a few of the new releases that are out there. So this one is Spyderman. Let's get it on. And you saw a little bit of a remix being born there. Now let's go to a lower cost version of this same machine, which is the new ASR-X, and I'll show you a little bit of that one as well. This is the new amazing ASR-X, which is a lower cost version of the ASR-10 that we just showed. Basically what it has are these drum pads, which can also act as keys in order to play bass lines and things like that. So what we'll go ahead and do is create a drum track on here. You can hear our tempo bass right there. Let's take it down to about 90 beats per minute. So there I have 2 bars of a simple drum loop that I've sequenced. So let's go ahead and play that back. And you can see that it's already auto looping there. So there it is. We can go ahead and tell that to quantize to the same grid as the actual first track was. And you can go to your next tracks here and pick a different sound with this knob. Let's try something like a type of bells. Sounds cool to me. Put them in. So let's go ahead and put the tempo at 90 there. And there we have a newly recorded sequence. And we'll loop to that same bar. Now let's time it to a track on an acapella off the record here. Let's see what we can actually dig up. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take the sequence that we have created here on ASR-X and match it up to an acapella track from the record. Check it out.
The episode starts when I walk down a block, it reach in my pocket. Yo, where's my knock? It follows me into the spot, compelling. Go check the dread, and yes, these herbs selling. Up and out the gate, I'm a potential felon.
And now you can see how you can actually lock it up to create a complete new flavor for the track. So it's as easy as that on the ASR-X. You have all the same functions that you do in the ASR-10, but almost twice the memory capacity with 32 megabytes of RAM expansion available on this machine as opposed to 16 on the ASR-10. Check it out. Okay, so what I'd like to introduce now is the amazing MPC 2000 by AKAI. And what you can do on this machine is just phenomenal. You have the pad bank here, which is actually your trigger bass, and you have 4 separate pad banks on here that you could pick of different sounds For instance, I have a kick here on this bank. There's nothing that I have on that bank, and I have some other sounds on corresponding keys. Let's go ahead and start up a little simple sequence here. I could push my record and play button, and it'll give me a 4-count count off. And I'll just tap it to the beat to create a simple kick. Now, if my timing is off, the quantize automatically corrects it in there, if that's the way I wish it to do. So that'll just ride out like that. Let's go to my second bank, and I'll pick a sound here, only with the filter opening and closing. Here we go. So automatically the quantize gets put in there. Let's add a loop to the top of that. Push our play start, and there it is. And a lot of dance music production as well as hip-hop tracks are created just solely using this machine and nothing else. So this is the amazing MPC 2000 by AKAI, and if you're looking for a low-cost alternative to the MPC 2000, AKAI also features the S20. Let's check that out. Basically what you have here is a similar configuration of pads to access samples. You can also actually reverse pieces of a loop right in the middle of the loop using the reverse button here. Pretty trick. You have the floppy disk drive built onto this, as well as 16 sample pads and a 4-track sequencer. Okay, so I actually get a lot of questions about what does a computer do in the role of sequencing or building a track. Basically, these are the basic components that we have. We have the keyboard trigger, we have the computer and the monitor so that we can see what's going on inside there. These little guys here all around are various modules. Now, modules are basically like little boxes of sound. You'll get a different type of sound, say from your Nord rack as you would from your Novation. These are multi-timbral tone modules, so they can actually respond on more than one MIDI channel. That means that you can have a bass on one track, a piano on another track, a string, etc., etc. Same thing on this one, which is another model of Roland tone generator. Here we have a Mackie mixer. This is used for monitoring the various inputs from these different modules here. So I guess what I can actually do is I'll go ahead and pick a drum loop and sequence that with the computer here, just for a simple 4 bars, nothing really fancy. That's all I need to do. Now that'll automatically be looped in the computer. I can push play, and the loop will keep going. Okay, so now I have the loop in the computer sequencer. Now I'm going to pick this little module here. This is an analog Novation base station module. So we're actually triggering this. Check it out. You can actually real-time modify some of the different parameters in here. But we'll just go ahead and leave it like this and sequence it to that little drum groove there. So let's keep that part in there, and let's let that ring out for a little bit of a longer loop and quantize that to 16th note. Let's check that out. You can actually see how the computer ties those components together. In any given modules, you can add strings from another unit. You could add vocal tracks from another unit. Basically, the possibilities are endless. I mean, you have so many different options today to choose from. It's amazing. Okay, so the next area I'd like to cover is in the area of digital recording. One of the greatest advances that has been made in the area of digital recording is found in the Roland VS880. So let's go and check that out. Okay, so I've composed my track, I've picked the acapella that I want, but what do I do with it next? Where do I record it to? One of the most amazing advances in recording technology is right here, the VS880. I'll give you a brief overview of how this actually works. On tracks 1 through 4, I have the music that I created here. Now, the acapella is going to come up on tracks 6 and 8, which I have some separate tracks. And I can actually edit their levels and such. Here's the background vocal. Take the music out. So this is basically where the track comes together. As I took the turntables, put them in over here, and had my modules and all the other things kicking over here. Once I have all the pieces together in the VS880, I can actually take a piece like this with the vocoder part there. Let's isolate that. Locate it.
Baby, baby, let me ride with you.
Let's look at some of the different things that we could do with that. Let's try a large vocal plate, or maybe a long cave type of reverb.
Baby,
Let's put that on this particular track.
baby, let me ride with you.
There's the track with a reverb on it. Let's try it with a delay instead.
Baby, baby, let me ride with you.
That sounds pretty cool. Or maybe let's try it with a chorus on it.
Baby, baby, let me ride with you.
Sounds pretty fat to me.
Let me ride with you.
So you see some of your creative options that you actually have with a machine such as this. All these actual faders here as well can be automated. Like you go to the big studios and you see the faders, they're moving by themselves, but the automation goes on in the internal processor. But it's excellent because once you got your mix tight, you save the mix, you save the EQ settings, you save the levels, everything. And you could still load it back up and alter it if you wanted to go back and change it. And if you record over something accidentally, just hit the undo button and it'll actually digitally take you back to where you were before. Okay, so let's look back at the steps that we took to actually make a remix. First, we got the vocals from a DAT or from a record. We then constructed a track around that using the drum machine or computer and various modules and samplers. We then recorded it onto the hard disk, edited it, moved things around a little bit, and then finally took what we had recorded on the hard disk recorder to DAT or recordable CD, and that is your finished product. So top remixers can actually make as much as $30,000 per mix. That's something to think about when all this technology is so available and affordable to you. Remember the mix that we did at the top of the show with Shabba Ranks? I'll leave you with that now. And thanks for watching the tools of the remix.
I'm on like me. Ready for you. Any how you want it. Action pack. Baby. Lady love, honey bunch.
Baby, I feel it's time to live.
Yes, it's on me.
Your mind to tell me what we gonna do.
What I'm gonna do.
Tonight is the moment.
Wicked.
So let's get it on.
Let's get it on and
Baby, I
over.
feel it's time to
Shabba is no Casanova.
mind to tell me what we gonna do.
Love you forever.
Tonight is the moment.
Woman, you want me treasure.
Get it on, baby.
Let's get it on. Alright. Big body woman, who fi jump up, jump up. And inna the air, you just shake up your butt. Everybody woman, who fi wind up, wind up. Shabba inna the place, who no fi line up. I love to see a woman with a Coca-Cola bottle cup. And if for that she have Shabba walk love her up. Me nah go stop love her until the light burst. And a strong man dingo and enough me a bubble. Yes, it's on me.
Mind to tell me what we gonna do.
You know what I'm gonna do?
Tonight is the moment. So let's get it on, baby.
ASR-10, MPC 2000, ASR-X, and S20 samplers are all available at Pro Sound and Stage Lighting, as well as all Roland, Novation, Nord, and Emu sound modules, as well as software for any size studio.